Yeah.
Yeah, the people losing their jobs are not the criminals, they're the people trying to prevent the criminals.
Put them in jail.
Yeah, no consequences for the people who are actually, I'll say, the bad guys, so to speak.
Exactly. So maybe things are starting to swing back to common sense.
I don't know.
We'll see. All right. So, folks, we talked about this before the break, but do you think it's possible for former President Trump to have an unbiased trial, a fair trial in Washington, D.C., or should a relocation be considered? The former president took to Truth Social to talk about it, to suggest his case should be moved to West Virginia, where he believes he would receive a fair trial.
And West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey agrees. He said if prosecutors insist on proceeding with this politicized case, they should move the venue to West Virginia. And joining us now with more reaction is West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey. Attorney General, thank you for joining us here. Why do you believe that the former president's trial should be relocated to your state?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm sitting here in the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. And I think when you focus on criminal trials, while it's certainly a traditional, virtually all the time, you're going to have a trial in the location where the alleged crime occurred. One of the fundamental precepts of the criminal justice system is having a fair trial and a fair tribunal. And given everything going on in D.C., the fact that every single person in D.C. has a very strong opinion on this, the best way to ensure fairness is to move the venue outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And we think a good location would be West Virginia. And part of the reason for that is that if you're a prosecutor, you're probably worried about what might happen. Even if you were able to sustain a conviction in Washington, D.C., what's going to happen on appeal? This issue of prejudice is going to loom very large. Why not move the venue to West Virginia, have a fair trial, and then ultimately let the chips fall where they may?
Mr. Morrisey, I know that there are parts of West Virginia that are pretty close to the district. I live in Northern Virginia, went out to Harper's Ferry about a month ago. Probably less than an hour it took us to get there, right? But where in West Virginia? Would it be Charleston you're thinking of? Where would you have it?
Well, there are a couple different places. We have federal courthouses in 8 locations in West Virginia. Martinsburg is 77 miles away, but there are also other locations as well that I think would be able to handle a trial of this magnitude. But I think that it's important. And remember, there is precedent for this happening. You can look at the Oklahoma City bombings. You could look at Rodney King. You could look at OJ. You can look at DC snipers. They do this when they're trying to ensure that there's not going to be prejudice exerted in the trial. So I think this makes a lot of sense. It's good for both the prosecution and it's good for President Trump. I think it'll be a fair process.
Do you think the judge would actually approve this? She seems to be wanting to get the trial over as quickly as possible and seemingly on her terms.
Look, I think that this is an extraordinary situation. No one can unlook at everything that happened on January 6th. So I don't know why the judge would not consider doing this. I think this is a no-brainer.
Now, let me ask you the political question. You can go ahead and get that. Are you serious about this as a proposal? Because you're running for governor, as I recall, and I think 69% of people voted in the last election for Mr. Trump. So he's quite popular in West Virginia. Are you doing this to try to curry favor with his supporters, or do you really think there's a possibility that it could happen?
Look, I think that there is a possibility that this could happen. But more importantly, I think that this should happen. And I would say the following. Everyone knows that President Trump can't get a fair shake out of D.C. I've actually met a human being who thinks he's going to be able to get the kind of trial that you'd like to say is fair and where you won't get to see all these prejudicial issues raised on appeal. I don't think that's likely to happen if you move this to West Virginia. So as the chief legal officer of the state, I think it's a very good idea. And I think that West Virginians are known for fairness. Fairness pervades throughout the state.
Yeah.
And wherever you do it, they get to choose what location within West Virginia. There are parts of the Eastern Panhandle that are a little bit more split in the electoral process. You don't know who you're going to pick.
Yeah.
But it's not Washington, D.C. and I
That's
think it's
for
a
sure.
much better location.
Yeah.
Attorney General, I want to ask you about this change of subject a bit. Restrictions for work on your state's Mountain Valley pipeline have been vacated, which means the plans can officially move forward. Now it's a 303-mile pipeline project, and it's responsible for transporting natural gas to Mid-Atlantic and South Atlantic markets. What does this mean for West Virginia energy independence? But also, I think as we all realize, West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin also plays into this.
Look, I think that everyone worked together. This was a team effort. And I thought the federal delegation worked hard to try to put those provisions in place to allow the pipeline to be completed. Our office submitted a brief to the Supreme Court so that the state's legal interests were reflected. So I want to give everyone credit because I think that that's the right thing to do. But it means a lot, not only thousands of jobs, a lot of construction jobs, a lot of revenue as a result of the gas going through the pipelines. But I think even more importantly, we're talking about the ability then to transport a lot of this Marcellus gas. Eventually, it can get to the Atlantic Ocean. That's going to help with American energy independence. And eventually, it's also going to allow for much greater exports of our valuable energy. So this means a lot to our state financially, from a jobs perspective, and from a rule of law perspective as well, because this thing's been shut down for a long time. I'm really pleased with the court's decision.
What's the economic situation in West Virginia? I used to work in Huntington, and back in the day, it was coal was a big thing. I assume it's less so now. What is driving the economy in West Virginia, and how do things look right now?
Look, I think that things have been on the upswing, but we still have a lot of work in front of us to reach our potential. We're a state that has a lot of positive things going for us. We have incredible people, workers who are going to be able to service the needs of a lot of small, medium, and large service businesses. We also have an enormous opportunity being within 10 hours of 180 million people. That's something that many other states don't have. So I think we're poised for a rise in the economic rankings because we want to be that shining state in the mountains.
Yeah.
But I think that we still need to push some more aggressive economic policies.
All right, Attorney General of West Virginia, Patrick Morrisey, appreciate your joining us. Thank you.